Hey there, my name is Joe Gaudio. I am a financial advisor here in Vancouver, Washington. Today I'm going to be talking to you and educating you about a product that I've used and comes under a little bit of, misconception at time, and that's the variable annuity. Now, this specific type of variable annuity that I'm going to be talking about is a variable annuity with a guaranteed lifetime income rider. So I'm going to go through some examples of how this product is used. I'm also going to go through the phases of it, the accumulation phase while you're waiting to take money out, and then the distribution phase and what that looks like. And then also I'm going to go through the pros and cons later in this video. As far as this isn't meant for everybody, you should always seek professional investment advice before investing in any product, and this is no different. So again, I'm going to jump into it here, kind of explain the basics and talk to you about why I think a variable annuity could be beneficial to you. So this specific type of variable annuity that I use, that I put up here, is called a variable annuity with a guaranteed income rider. Now, why that's important is a lot of the pension plans in today's day and age have kind of gone by the wayside. And so what this is designed to do is create a lifetime income for you and or a spouse in retirement. Something that's guaranteed, just like it says there. Now, there's takeaways from that as well, and I'll get into that in a second. So the first thing I want to do is kind of go through the accumulation phase. What happens? So the example I'm going to use today is I'm going to use a 55-year-old, it doesn't matter male or female, but a 55-year-old and their spouse. And the design of this product is really meant to be kind of a buy and hold product. And in my opinion, the way that I use it is to let it season a few years. So that's why we're going to go with a 55-year-old basically over here. And we're going to start, and the way that this guaranteed income rider works, and this is not, this is one of the products I use, but it's not product specific. So I'm not going to get into the insurance carrier that I'm talking about here or anything like that, because there's lots of variations. This one is designed to be a guaranteed income rider with what's called a 6% simple rider. And what that means is basically, in this example, I'm going to take this 55-year-old and we're going to put in $500,000 for a baseline. What happens now with this product is every year, the insurance company comes in and they take a look at the contract value, which is invested in the market. You can go stocks, bonds, mutual funds, as far as the overall investment allocation or mutual funds, but with different varying degrees of risk, much like how a 401k would be allocated. So you can go more growth or more conservative, and your returns inside of the product will be predicated on what you've done as far as the overall investment return. So let's take this 55-year-old, let's put in the 500,000, and what happens now across the bottom of this graph that I've come in is I put in the number of years. So every year they'll come in and take a look at it. So after year one, for example, they come in and look at it, and whatever it's worth at that point, it gets a guaranteed step up of 6%. And simple math tells me 6% of 500,000 is $30,000. So after year one, this new guaranteed income rider value is now $530,000. If you continue to follow that math along, most of these companies will provide a guaranteed step up for up to 10 years. So again, that's why I kind of started with a 55-year-old. With the design, we're going to leave it alone until this individual is 65 to create some guaranteed future income. So if you do that over and over again, and I'm not going to go through all these years, but if you take another step up in year two, now you're, instead of 530, you get another 30,000 or 6% off that original $500,000 base step up, and now you're at 560,000. So if you continue that step up process all the way through, after year 5, you would have no worse than 5 step ups of 30,000, so you would have another 150,000 on top of your 500. So you would be up here at 650,000, right? And that's after year 5. Now, if you continue through this process, basically taking these stair steps along the way and going through, if you fast forward all the way out to 10 years, you would have received 10 years. If you left this alone, bought it, held it, left it for income, you would have received 10 years worth of step ups in this scenario. So 30,000 a year times 10 years is 300,000. If you add that onto your original investment, which is $500,000, you end up 10 years down the road, somewhere out in here, 10 years, 65, now this individual's 65 years old, and you have $800,000, right? So that is the guarantee when you're in my office in front of me or anything else, I know with some degree, well, with exact degree of certainty, that within that amount of time, you're going to have 500,000 turn into 800,000. Now, it's important to know that what this isn't is this is not a walkaway value. So what that means is you cannot come into the insurance company and say, give me my 800,000, my account value is worth 500,000 or 600,000 because the market didn't do well, I'm going to walk away. That's not what this design is for. This design is for a guaranteed lifetime income. So right there, what I just explained is the beginning phase, which is the accumulation phase. So now let's talk for a minute about the distribution phase. The whole purpose for this, again, is to create a base level of income in retirement that you do not have to worry about and that you will not outlive. So the way that this works is now, based off of your age, in this particular contract, this might say something to the effect that once you hit 65 and over, for the younger of the two spouses, you're guaranteed a 5% payout for the rest of your life. So now you take this $800,000, you multiply by 5%, 0.05, and you get a guaranteed lifetime income from that initial $500,000 investment of $40,000 a year. So from a planning perspective, that's very important for us in the financial advising world, because I know with a degree of certainty where this thing is headed, right? It could get better than this, and I'll explain that in a second, but it can be no worse than $40,000 a year for the rest of your life on a $500,000 deposit. So now the other portion of this basically is what is happening with your account value in between. Because right here on the y-axis, I have account value and the rider value. So we just went through the rider value. I'm going to switch over to blue to see if that works at all. And then let's assume there's a couple of outcomes that you could have along the way. Let's assume your account value kind of bounces around but never really goes up above, and you finish with $600,000 after 10 years because the market just doesn't do anything. Under that scenario, you would get obviously 5% again of that guaranteed income rider of the higher of those two amounts. So I know again that you have a guaranteed $40,000 a year's worth of income. On this scenario here, you have 600,000. So that would be a pretty bad scenario, but it could happen. And what this is designed to do is to prevent from downturn in the market that is prolonged, really, and to try and provide some level of base guaranteed income. So the other facet of this is you could end up in a scenario instead of that where the market actually does well, and within 5 years' time, let's say you've gone along, and now all of a sudden, instead of being 5 years in, we were at 650,000. Instead of that, let's say the contract value is up to 750,000 because the stock market has actually done really well. Then what you end up with, without getting into too much detail, is now that 750 locks in because it's an annual lock, and that becomes your new income benefit base. And now you start getting 6% off of the $750,000 a year. And that will continue for up to 5 more years. So sitting in the office, I know 800,000 is the worst case scenario. And again, this is designed to kind of create a guaranteed lifetime income. For this individual couple, it would be 40,000 a year minimum, right? So if the market does better than that, then you could expect better than that. So with these contracts, there's always pros and cons, right? And I've heard them over the years. So I'm going to take some of this down here, and let's talk for a second about the pros and cons. I always used to make this old T scale or whatever they call it, where you'd list the pros and cons on both sides. So over here we have the pros, and over here we have the cons. The biggest con that I hear, I want to start there, is cost. And there is no doubt about it that this is a more cost prohibitive product than just buying an individual investment and putting it in an advisory account or some other type of an account. Now, you can imagine that the reason it costs more is because there's a guaranteed lifetime income benefit that this annuity, this insurance company, has to back up. So if there were a prolonged down market and you woke up with an account value worth significantly less than that $800,000, the insurance company has to guarantee you that $40,000 a year for the rest of your life. So that is it's a pretty big cost, but it also is a pretty big reward, and it takes some of the guesswork out of where we are going from a planning standpoint. The other thing that we talk about that's a negative is liquidity. And basically what that means is this is designed to be kind of a buy and hold and put it away and leave it down the road for a pension. So that's the design of it. Now, let's get into a few of the positives. So one of them we just talked about is that guaranteed income. I know it's income you can't outlive. I know it's income that's not dependent upon the stock market. I know it will be there regardless of what happens with the underlying value of your actual account value. Let's talk about number two. I think I've seen this one a lot over my 29 plus years is less emotion, right? It takes a little bit of the emotion out of the market. So I've lived through a number of down markets, you know, the 08, the 2022 that we just went through, even the dot-com stuff back in the early 2000s. People get emotional when it comes to investing. And so this is designed to kind of take a little bit of the emotion out of it. You don't get as panicked if you know that you have a guaranteed lifetime income, right? Number three is, and this one is kind of a little bit tricky, but you could possibly be more aggressive in your underlying investments. And what I mean by that is if you know you have the backing of the insurance company with the guaranteed income rider, you can build this portfolio for a little more speed. You can put large cap growth, small cap growth, small value, international, emerging markets. You can really go anywhere you want with this type of product that I'm discussing. And you can kind of let the thing hopefully outpace your little step ups along the way. So that's, to me, that is a little bit of a big bonus, because as you age and get closer to retirement, if you didn't have such a guarantee, you might feel like you need to start backing down your overall risk tolerance, which is just normal behavior. By doing that though, you also reduce the chance of outsized returns going forward. So that's one thing, is I think it allows you to stay in the market and stay a little more aggressive. The other thing is longevity, right? So everybody's living longer now. The benefit of this is if your account value that you start drawing the $40,000 a year on ever goes to zero because of all your withdrawals and a bad market and everything else, it will pay, if you have the joint guaranteed lifetime income rider on for you and your spouse, it will pay for the rest of both of your lives. So if you live to 90, 95, 100, and the money's gone, you will keep getting a $40,000 check every year until both of you have passed. So that's a real strong benefit for longevity. And then really the last one that I put on there was, account value. So the account value is paid out at the second death. Let's assume you go down that path, keep the money invested, everything goes fine. The second one of you passes and there's still $400,000 or something like that in this account. That pays on or out to your estate. That pays out to your beneficiaries, children, grandchildren, whoever you want it to go to. So there's a real benefit there for just the overall aspect that you can still get this paid out. Unlike the old annuities that our parents and grandparents dealt with, or even pension plans today from the different organizations like teachers and firefighters and stuff like that, those pensions die with you. If you die 2 years in, that's the end of it. There is no residual value. Here, if there's any money left in the contract, it does pass on, which is another added feature. So really, kind of to wrap it up, you know, there's a lot of pros, there are a few cons to these products, but the reality is with this guaranteed lifetime income rider, you have options, right? I've used it a lot in my practice where I have maybe a 5-year ramp or a 10-year ramp, to where we have a few years to get those guaranteed step-ups, but we also have the opportunity to let the market continue to run, right? So if we put it in again, and 5 years in, that 500,000 is worth 900,000 because the market's taken off and our account has done well, then that becomes the new kind of locked in high water mark, and you start stacking those 5% or 6% guaranteed income rider values off of that new 900,000. So that's a huge benefit for me planning, knowing that I have that. Now, back to one of the negatives again with the liquidity, what I typically do is I will not put any more than half of a client's overall investable assets into something like this. So if a client came to me in this scenario and had $1 million, maybe, and they didn't have any pensions or any other guaranteed income, then I would say, well, maybe we should take a look and stick $500,000 of it into a guaranteed income rider annuity so that we know what we're going to be looking at down the road. And then maybe we take the other half of it and we put it into a managed portfolio that then provides you the lack of liquidity that this has. You need 20 grand for something, want to take a trip, whatever. We use that bucket of money and leave this alone to kind of season. So that's kind of a synopsis of the variable annuity with the guaranteed income rider. I apologize for the length of this video, a lot to cover. As always, this is, I'm a financial advisor, again, here in Vancouver, Washington. JAG Financial is the name of my company. I clear through LPL Financial, and this is my own opinion of how this product works after using it for decades. But this is definitely not the opinion of LPL, and on top of it, it's not right for everybody. So you need to make sure that you seek financial professional advice before you invest in this type of a product to make sure it's a good fit for you and your family. As always, if you need anything, feel free to contact me at the office, and have a great day.